Mike Tyson versus Logan Paul is not confirmed yet. Most of the people are talking about this fight, and I think it's a genius fight in business terms. But as much as people can hype it up, I feel like it will be a boring ass fight. Now, I tell you this because now Mike Tyson is a lot older. I'm confident that Mike Tyson can beat Logan Paul, but knowing how Logan Paul fights, he doesn't like to take risk as much. So I'm sure that he's gonna stick behind the jab, especially the first, like, if it's 8 rounds, the first 4 rounds or 5 rounds, maybe even 6, he's gonna stick behind the jab and back off because he hates getting hit and he hates playing with fire, right? And Mike Tyson, let's say Mike Tyson goes hard at him. The only way that Logan Paul starts using that right hand and starts taking risk is if Mike Tyson gets slower as the rounds go on, which he will, because he's a lot older. As good as he is, he will get slower as the rounds continue, because he's going to try and put up performance and throw some shots. But Logan Paul is 6'2", 6'3", he's going to stick behind the jab like he always does. Like in the Mayweather fight, he played it really safe. He jab and clinch, and he keeps doing that. That's his thing. He jabs and clinches unless like there's a massive opening for him where he has enough time to throw the right and put his guard up as soon as he throws the right, or clinch. And it's definitely going to frustrate Mike Tyson. I would like to see how Mike Tyson reacts to Logan Paul clinching him a lot, because Mike Tyson being angry is pretty scary. So I think Logan Paul might actually be scared to clinch him, because Mike Tyson might bite his ear off. Like, imagine Mike bites his ear off. He's not the same Mike Tyson. He's not as angry or as frustrated as he would have been 20, 30 years ago. But he knows in business terms he's going to make 7, 8 figures, right? And regardless, whether he hypes a fight or whether he throws in a good performance, if Mike Tyson performs like shit, right? Let's say, I'm not saying like fights like shit. I'm just saying that let's say Logan Paul runs away the entire fight, and Mike Tyson, people complain. If Mike Tyson has another fight, he's still gonna make 8 figures, 9 figures. I don't know how many, but he can keep throwing exhibition fights, and it could be boring ass fights, but people are still gonna watch because they know what Mike can do. Logan Paul being an opponent for him, I don't think it's right in terms of excitement. If he fought Jake Paul, I'd definitely be excited, because Jake Paul likes to finish his opponents. He likes to throw in the punches. He likes to perform for the crowd, perform in terms of like knock people out. Logan Paul is more of if he beats you, it's most probably by points. I feel like people are going to hate on me for this, but I feel like Logan Paul has the capability to win this fight. He does have the capability to win this fight on points. He's not going to stop Mike Tyson. The only way he stops Mike Tyson is if he hides and runs for like 7 rounds, and Mike Tyson gets tired of chasing him, and then he's like 50 something, his legs get fatigued, and Logan Paul throws a right hand, and boom, fight over. Because Logan Paul has got some strength. Like, Logan Paul is 200 plus pounds, probably 220, and there's not going to be some weight limit because it's an exhibition. So, and the thing is, look, we've watched a few exhibition fights, right? Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather. There hasn't been any knockout. There hasn't been any stoppage. Exhibition fights are not interesting fights. It's because they're not fighting for a belt, and it's not like you have to win. It's sort of a let's do it for fun thing. The money makes sense, and in business terms, it does well. So let's do this shit. Because if it was a normal fight, you see people going for the knockout. But with Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather, it's like they're making their 8 figures regardless. They're retired. They don't need that, I need to keep this fan base and they need to watch all my fights. They already have a fan base. They don't need to prove anything. So that's why their fights are kind of boring. I mean, the Mike Tyson-Roy Jones fight was interesting. But Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather, it's an exhibition. So why would they put themselves in so much risk? Like, literally, for Logan Paul, there was less risk because he's fighting someone way shorter than him. And Floyd Mayweather is he will outpoint you and he'll outsmart you, but he's not going to knock you out. He was never going to knock Logan Paul out, right? Especially that Logan Paul was 6'2". So it made sense for both fighters. Floyd Mayweather is way too skilled for Logan Paul, so Logan Paul's not going to knock him out. And then Logan Paul is too big and he's too tall to where him sticking behind his jab and him running away will work well for him. So in both sides, it makes sense because none of them are going to knock each other out. Logan Paul might have said second, third round, but he's not going to do shit. Floyd Mayweather is going to say first round. They're not going to do shit. They're going to be safe and make their money. That's what they do. Floyd doesn't care about what you think. Logan Paul doesn't care about what you think. They want to make their money. And they're some of the smartest people. And they're making way more money from exhibition fights than professional fighters because of their fan base and because of how controversial they are. Mike Tyson is not as controversial, but he's so exciting. And his fights are always exciting. But him fighting Logan Paul is not going to be exciting. Logan Paul is a safe fighter. He likes to stick behind the jab. He doesn't like to take much risk. So it works well both sides. Mike Tyson throws a lot of punches and we go like, oh shit, he's going to go for the knockout. But he doesn't because of Logan Paul running away. Mike Tyson gets tired and then Logan Paul throws a bit of punches but doesn't really accelerate like in most of his fights because they don't want to take risks. It's an exhibition fight. I would say that Logan Paul is in a bit of trouble because his few fights, like the KSI fight, he sort of ran away. The Floyd Mayweather fight, he stuck behind the jab and it was a lot of clinching. So I feel like if they see a similar performance, no one's gonna watch him anymore. Like there will always be people that watch him, but the excitement will drop. It's like let's say we watch George St. Pierre fight, right? We know how good he was, but he's not gonna perform the same way at 43, 44. What I'm saying is like the popularity and the amount of demand for Logan Paul right now is high because of how big he is and his name, but I don't know if this fighting thing is going to work from him if he doesn't show some good performances. I know that Anderson Silva wanted to fight Logan Paul, but Logan Paul didn't take the fight with him. Jake Paul won't take the fight with him because Anderson Silva is so good. He's so skilled. And the other factor is that Anderson Silva is big. He's 6 foot. So Logan Paul can't just, put his weight on him and make himself look big because Anderson Silva is also big and he's more skilled than Logan Paul. So why would Logan Paul take that fight? He takes fights against people like Floyd Mayweather because the risk of him getting knocked out is less because he doesn't want to look bad. He's a YouTuber, so he will get memed so badly if he gets knocked out or he gets dropped. That's why most of his fights he stays safe. He doesn't want to look bad. But for Jake Paul doesn't give a shit, bro. Jake Paul, I like watching Jake Paul's fights. Everyone can say that Jake Paul's fights are way more entertaining. And that's because he goes for the knockout. That's why literally Jake Paul is retired from YouTube. He's retired from YouTube. He can do 100+ fights and I'll watch each of those because I know he throws himself in those situations where there's risk of him getting knocked out. But Logan doesn't do that. So Logan can't just depend on boxing because not much people want to see him box considering his recent performances. So when you put Mike Tyson and Logan Paul against each other, it's a fight where you don't know who's going to win. I swear, I saw on the Mayweather channel where they were saying that, Mike Tyson's going to knock his ass out, but they don't know Logan Paul. Logan Paul is very calculated with how he works. He doesn't want to get memed. He knows what happened in the KSI fight. He knows what happened. So that has put some trauma in his head where he's not going to take that risk unless you get slow or you make mistakes. Remember when he threw those 30 punches in a row against Floyd Mayweather, and the only reason he threw those punches was because Floyd's hands were up and Floyd wasn't throwing at that moment. At that moment, Floyd said, okay, I'm going to defend and see what he's got. And that's when Logan Paul threw so many punches, 20, and all of them hit the guard. All of them hit the guard. Not even one punch made it through. So that just shows that he's gonna throw the shots when your guard is up, and if your hands are down and the possibility of a counter is there, he's not gonna throw the punch. He only threw the punch to Floyd when Floyd was just sticking by his guard because he knew the risk of him getting hit was low. So when Floyd just kept his hands up and didn't throw a punch in that ending of that round, I think it was the first or second round, he threw 20 punches and they all were haymakers and they all hit the guard. So what I'm trying to say is that he throws the punches if you're just on defense mode. But if there is a level of threat that you're going to hit back soon, he's not going to throw those punches. He's going to stick behind the jab, clinch you, hit you in the clinch, and try to bully you with his size. He's a wrestler. So he will do that to Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson is not going to get pissed off because Mike Tyson is smarter than he was before. He knows what business is. Why the hell would Mike Tyson go in a ring and go for a knockout against Logan Paul and go for the kill and potentially get hit and then have severe life damage, life-threatening moment? Because he's 56. As much as he is crazy, he is smart. Like, he's 56. He's not going to take the same risk as he did before. And Logan Paul, at this moment, he still doesn't take risk. Logan Paul is not going to take risk. Mike Tyson knows it's a business. If Mike Tyson gets severely injured in a fight, he's not going to be able to do any more exhibitions. So these two are going to get a fight together and they're not going to knock each other out. Mike Tyson will try to knock him out, but then it's not a fight where Mike Tyson is going to be like, I'm going to kill this guy. It's not that type of fight. Because it's an exhibition, it's a business move. Exhibitions aren't like feuds or rivalries like you see with, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, that type of shit, where there is, legitimate rivalry, cold blood, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, Khabib, Conor McGregor. It's not that type of fight. There is no drama between these two. It is a business move. They're working together. It's a partnership. Exhibitions are partnerships. It benefits both sides and there's very little risk. I haven't seen much exhibitions where people have got knocked out. That's just how it goes. It's a business move. So I can see the fight being entertaining if Logan Paul wants to trade with him, but he's not going to trade with him. I will watch the fight on a stream that is not paid for free, probably, or I would just wait the next day. But I'm not paying money for exhibition fights. Because there is no, you don't need to knock the person out. There is no risk. Like, they're both not active fighters. If they're both not active fighters, they don't need to prove a point. They just want to make their bag. They want to get that money. And they will make their money. They will make their money on exhibition fights because of how big their name is. I would like to see this fight, but it's not going to be as exciting, and I'm calling it now because of their style, because of the opponent picked. Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, I'll watch that. Logan Paul is a defensive fighter who sticks behind the jab. He's a smart fighter. He doesn't really throw caution to the wind. So Mike Tyson is going to figure that out in the beginning rounds and realize, oh shit, this fight's going to go the distance. And Logan Paul doesn't have any problem going the distance because that's what he always does. He goes the distance in every fight. So I haven't seen him stop anyone. Hasn't had much fights, but he doesn't want to stop anyone. He's good at promoting fights, but trust me, he's not going to stop Mike Tyson unless Mike Tyson slows down severely. Mike Tyson, I swear to you, I will make a bet with anyone. Mike Tyson being aggressive, when Mike Tyson is aggressive, he won't throw a single punch because he will be on his guard. He will wait for Mike Tyson to get tired to start throwing punches. Otherwise, he's not going to throw a single punch until Mike Tyson gets tired. That's obviously the game plan. So there you go. There's my prediction. I believe if Logan's going to stop him, it's going to be late. And it's going to be because Mike Tyson's severely tired from being the aggressor the whole time. Or Logan Paul can outpoint him. But Mike Tyson can finish Logan early, but that will not happen as Logan will be on the jab and on the clinch the entire time.